Welcome, everybody, to the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. We are at Grey Cup time. This season has went quick, and I want to welcome in right now my co-host. First up, Brian Schmidt. How you doing, Schmitty?
I was doing better. I got a better introduction last week.
I know.
That was kind of lame.
Well, I'm getting ready to leave, and I haven't had much time to do anything, but I've done like 7 shows today just so I can spread them out over the week and not miss anything. And to tell you the truth, we're lucky that I remembered which show I was doing by now.
That is true.
And unfortunately, I saved the best for last. So at 10 o'clock, for anybody that wants to listen to a train wreck, well, me and former Cincinnati Bengal linebacker Joe Kelly will be on with our weekly Cincinnati Bengals weekly show. So I'm sure that'll be...
I have to.
Yeah.
I've got to listen to that one.
Yeah, that'll be bunches and bunches of fun. All right, my other co-host, who I don't think ever played on a winless team like my Cincinnati Bengals, but he did play on 4 Grey Cup champions, so he knows a little bit about getting ready for a Grey Cup. Help me welcome to the show, Robert Drummond. How you doing, Robert?
Doing pretty good, and just excited for this man. What a great chance and great opportunity to go out there and accomplish something that you set out at the beginning of the year to do. I was fortunate enough and blessed enough to be able to play in 4 Grey Cups in a row. That's really, that doesn't happen, unless you're the Edmonton Eskimos, the 70s and 80s, but those guys are going to have a blast. It's the most fun you ever had. Canadian people know how to party, at their major sporting events, and it should be fun and a great game.
All right, guys, let's talk about the division finals, which just wrapped up on Sunday, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats defeated the Edmonton Eskimos 36-16 on Sunday in the Eastern Final to punch their ticket to 107th Grey Cup. The Tiger Cats' defense, I think, was a major factor in this win, Brian. They collected 3 turnovers, including interceptions from Richard Leonard, Justin Tuggle, and a fumble recovery from Frankie Williams. As a unit, they held the Eskimos to just a single touchdown in a ball game. And when you're playing defense like that, it's hard to beat a team at this playing at the level that Hamilton's playing right now.
Yeah, that was some defensive performance. We talked last week a great deal actually about just how hot Trevor Harris was, and so. But the one thing that we all said was this Hamilton team has played good, consistent defense all year, and what would happen, in this game was going to be real interesting. But I mean, it just came down to the fact defensively they were all over the place. They smothered them. They never really allowed Edmonton's offense to get in a rhythm, and this has been a key for Hamilton all year. They just do it on all sides of the ball, offense, defense, and special teams.
Yeah, and when you look at his stats, Robert, Trevor Harris played well stat-wise until you get the end of that stat line. He was 29 for 41, 319 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. I think the 2 interceptions plus C.J. Gable was held to under 4 yards per carry. It kind of tells the tale here.
Yeah, that's the one thing I say. With Trevor Harris coming into this game, and I always said it throughout the year. I say it all the time. A quarterback's job is just to manage the game and not lose it for his opponent. And 2 interceptions hurt. And I always feel with the weather and this time of the year, the ground game is ultra important. And with averaging under 4 yards a carry, that's just not going to get it done. That's 2 rushes right there. That's not going to get you a first down. So that's just not going to get it done. And the writing was on the wall. And the way Hamilton's been playing all year, offense, defense, special teams, Edmonton just ran into a buzzsaw.
Yeah, that's the great thing. When you look at this, Brian, Hamilton deserves to be the team that's there. And so many times in the last few years, we've seen teams that not necessarily didn't deserve it, but the teams that dominated year long weren't able to finish this off. And it's great to see Hamilton be able to do this with basically a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, and that was really the key in my mind is they did finish it off. We talked about last week, how will a rookie quarterback perform when the lights are brightest? And we saw this in the early playoff games. We saw young rookie quarterbacks not perform. And here's one where rookie quarterback performed, but again, this was a true team win. Yes, he performed well, but everybody played well defensively, offensively. This was a complete team win, but that's what they've done all year, and it was something that I think a lot of people, you really have to give a lot of respect to, because it doesn't always happen that way. And they really came out and they took care of business, and they've got one more game to take care of business and win a championship.
Yeah, and that one more game is going to be against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who I think with their quarterback situation 3 or 4 weeks ago, we kind of left them for dead, Robert, and now they're back behind Zach Collaros.
You know what, Zach Collaros, took care of the ball. You'll hear me harping that about a quarterback, because it's been said to me by quarterbacks that I've played before that, their job is, Tracy Ham told me it, Doug Flutie told me it, Damon Allen told me it. It's like our job is just to go out there and just be the orchestrator, and not lose his game, to not throw interceptions. And that always stuck with me. So, when you look at the stat line, 17 to 25, almost 300 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions, that no interceptions, always rings loud to me, because now you can get more motivated on offense. You can get a lot of things done, and you don't put your team in bad situations, to be that you have to dig yourself out of. It was a great game. Winnipeg jumped up on them early. You give Saskatchewan a lot of credit, but you know what? I mean, it's a two-headed monster problem that Winnipeg has right now at quarterback, which is a good situation. But Zach Collaros has played like the player he is.
Yeah, and Mercy Maston's tackle on Riders quarterback Cody Fajardo at the 1 yard line on third down stopped a potential game-tying touchdown with 2:37 left in the game. So once again, the old adage, Brian, defense wins championships, and it pretty much rears its head here too, as a defensive play is what saved the game.
Yeah, it's always been that way, and I think it's never going to change. But once again, defense always wins championships, and now this was a great example. We talk about one play, but Winnipeg. Wow, I say that 3 times fast. Winnipeg played well defensively the whole game, and again, a constant theme. Hamilton defensively played well the whole game. Winnipeg defensively played well the whole game, and that's the key is your defense rising up when you need it most, and Winnipeg did that.
Yeah, and Zach Collaros, we talked about him before, Brian and Robert. When we looked at this team, when they signed him, we said you got to play him, and I think we see exactly what we were talking about now, Brian.
Yeah, 17 to 25. 261 touchdown, but no turnovers. Played, consistent the whole game, constantly through the game when they needed a play, made the play. This is the guy. And when we said this, we said if they didn't play him when they did, it was going to hurt. And apparently they listened to the show and they played him when they did. And once again, proving that the 3 of us are right.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt, because I'm pretty sure that Robert, the Blue Bombers coach, called and thanked you, didn't he, for us saying that on air?
Yeah, that's exactly what he did.
But let's talk about that, Robert. You've played for some of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play in the CFL. And just talk about, if Zach Collaros is not there, I don't think they win this game. And that leadership can kind of have a calming effect on you, whether you're a running back, a wide receiver, or a defense.
I completely agree. All you have to do is just look at the stat line. I try and explain to people, you'll constantly hear me say the psychology of the game. Zach Collaros gives them something that that they didn't have before he got there. You go on the other side of the ball. Look at Saskatchewan. Cody Fajardo, almost had 40 yards passing. But the one blemish I could see that and the game was won by 7 points was his one interception. They averaged 6 yards of carry on the ground. So they were doing what it takes to win the game, except that defensive stop and that interception. So and a quarterback will always tell you, always look at the mistakes that you make, because they can cost you later in the game. Not to put the onus on Cody, because he played a great game. But it was just Winnipeg's year, and they did They did the things that they needed to do to get the game won. They took care of the football. They protected the football. They scored when they had to, and they moved the ball and made stops. That's how you win games. Now, that's how championship teams are built.
Well, and the other thing about championship teams is they usually have everything you need. And when we look at this, Brian, I think these are the two most complete teams we've seen play against each other in the Grey Cup in a long time.
Yeah, it really is. Both of these teams have the potential to have great offensive games. Both teams have shown they can have great defensive games. Both teams have shown they have, solid special teams. This is one where, I don't know that either team has a huge advantage in any area. It's very evenly matched.
Yeah, and Brian, I would like to bring up, do you know who picked both of these games correctly on our show last week?
Me?
No.
Oh, Robert?
No.
I think I said him.
It must have been the guy that called Robert to congratulate him on our being brilliant.
I think it was me. And see, Robert, when we talked off air, not on the show, I told you I would not bring it up, and I didn't. I brought it up to Brian. So I didn't rub Robert's face in it on air, but I will Brian, because Brian answered the phone second when I called you both. So,
wow, there's a reason for you to go.
That's a damn good reason, I think. Also,
this is why nobody likes you.
Really? Nobody likes you either. That's why we talk to each other, because we wouldn't have anybody to talk to then.
That is true.
And Robert doesn't know either one of us well enough to hate us yet, and it's only been like 4 years. So that tells me not a lot of people like Robert either. All right, guys. We're just kidding. Everybody loves all three of us. When we look at this matchup, we talk about complete teams. Who do you give the edge to at quarterback, Zach Collaros or Dana? Who do we go with here? Evans or Collaros? I know Evans started the year as a backup. Collaros was hurt most of the season. We'll start with Brian.
Man, your first thought is Collaros because of the experience but man, I'll tell you, I feel like you the way Evans is playing, I feel like you almost have to give him a little bit of an advantage. He's played the whole season. He's been consistent. He's been good. Collaros gives you that experience, but Evans had the hot hand all year. So I'm going to give him a slight advantage, but it's pretty close.
Well, how about this, Robert? When I look at it, I would give Collaros the advantage also, but it's not a huge advantage. And I think it is very possible here, with the likes of Andrew Harris and that defense, that even if the slight advantage goes to Collaros, when you put everything around them that's around both of them, I might go with Evans, if that makes any sense.
As much as I like Dane Evans and the way he's played this year and he's played out of his mind, this is a different game. This is an entirely different monster. This is the Grey Cup. This is for kids who grew up in the States, it's the Super Bowl of the States football in Canada. And when those lights come on, trust me, as someone who's played in 5 of them, it's a different world. And the experience that Collaros has, and just the calmness that he has and bring over his team and the leadership he brings out there, I give him the slight advantage in that. But after about the second or third quarter, those jitters are going to go away. And then it's going to be a lot more even. But just offhand, just initially, just my forethought of trying to understand the game and what it's going to take to go out there and, you're going to have the whole hype leading up to the week before. You're going to have the crowd in the game. You're going to have the media there. You're going to have fans cheering for you. And you're going to be like, so, the whistle's going to blow. And you're going to be like, wait a minute. This is the championship of the CFL, the 2019. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. It's a Grey Cup. Yeah. And I think this Collaros gives them an advantage with having the experience in doing that.
So let me ask you this, Robert. You were from the States, played the NFL a little bit, played at Syracuse, played in the Sugar Bowl. When you made it to your first Grey Cup, did you realize how big a deal it was before you actually got into the game?
You know what? Well, like, but my first year there, I mean, I wasn't such a huge integral part of the game. Yeah, I was probably one of the, if not the best athlete on the field. But you know, it's just everything was centered around Mike Pringle, you know, and Tracy Ham and Louis Pasaglia, you know, and Danny McManus, you know. So it wasn't, you know, Darren Flutie. So it wasn't focused on me. So I could relax and, you know, and do what I've been doing all year. You know, making my statement, you know, behind the scenes, and it'd always be like, wow, that Robert Drummond kid is good. You know, he's an integral part, blah, blah, but the focus wasn't on me, so it wasn't that bad. Now, every other Grey Cup after that, it's like, okay, wait a minute, wow, now I'm a focal point, so it's like, okay, it's a little bit more stressful, you know, because the people now expect a lot more out of you. When they expect a lot more out of you, you know you have to perform. But you know you're on the biggest stage in Canada for that one day, and it made a big difference. You know, I mean, I was fortunately talented enough to be able to go out there and perform well and have enough good athletes around me, as in, you know, and with Doug Flutie, you know, Mike Pinball Clemens, you know, Mookie Mitchell, you know, Paul Mazzotti, you know, I can go on, and Jimmy Jet Cunningham, you know, not to mention our defense. So I could relax a little. But when you get in a situation of playing in the Grey Cup, you know, the whole country of Canada is watching you. It can become a little bit nerve-wracking.
All right, Brian, your Grey Cup experience. When is the first time as an American citizen do you remember watching the game live?
Oh, wow. Actually, 1989.
Oh, that was the best Grey Cup I think I've ever seen, too, other than the ones Robert won.
And the reason that I remember that so well is because ironically we had just moved and actually had gotten cable and I just remember turning it on and I just remember watching it. I just remember it was such a great game, but it was 1989.
Mine was 1987 my first year when I was a freshman at Indiana State, because I lived in, like, for lack of a better term, bumfuck Indiana, and we didn't have cable TV. And I know I would read about it in the newspapers, the Cincinnati Enquirer, even though it was Ohio, we lived across the border. But yeah, I never saw one until 1987. Robert, what was the first Grey Cup you saw live?
Oh, jeez. I mean, I know Warren Moon was playing, but I'm not sure which year it was.
Late 70s, early 80s?
Yeah. And I know Warren Moon was playing, and I mean, I was such a football fanatic back then, you know. As a young kid growing up, I mean, I just loved the game. And, you know, and for me, trying to remember football games is like trying to find a needle in a haystack, because I played, as my son always tell me, he's like, Dad, you played more games than the both of us have ever been alive combined. And I just started laughing. And I was like, you know, I guess I have played in a lot of games, you know, and it's hard to remember all the games, and even games I've watched on TV. But I always remember the fun I had, the excitement I had, and how regular season games were, not that they weren't important, but the excitement of playing in the Grey Cup is an entirely different world. And when those kids walk out there, I won't say kids, they're grown men, but when those men walk out there and they get that rush, that exhilaration of being in the game, that's the most important game for that day, at that moment, at that time, it's something they'll always remember, they'll never forget, and hopefully they can go out there and play the best of their ability, because you're always afraid on a national stage to make a mistake. I was fortunate enough to not make any mistakes, but they do happen.
Yeah, and I can tell you this, as old as the three of us are getting to be, I think we can safely call anybody kids under the age of 30.
I know. They're probably doubling some of those guys.
Yeah, unfortunately, we could probably call them infants. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah. Schmidt's with us, so it's right.
With you there.
Yeah. All right, guys. So, you know what I remember, Brian? I don't know if Robert remembers this. You remember the NFL strike in 1982. I think that's the first time I ever saw a CFL game live, because if you remember, for 1 week of that strike, I think it was the first week of the strike, because there was no games. They didn't have the so-called scab teams, but they actually had the games on NBC on that first Sunday. The ratings weren't that good. They didn't show them again. But I do remember watching it during the strike.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that, but that's, you know, I don't remember that. I really don't.
Okay. Well, you don't remember
But
a
I'll
lot of
take your
things
word
because
for
you
it.
just said I don't remember that 3 fucking times. So.
Yeah. I tend to some things I tend to take out of my memory so that I can remember important things like my name.
I like your name. Okay. Does it work?
Not really.
I didn't think it did. You think maybe the Jack and Coke has something to do with the memory too?
That usually helps.
No, it actually hurts, Schmitty. It doesn't help.
No.
All right. So, guys, we got to pick this. We got Hamilton. We got Winnipeg. Brian, who you got?
Oh, I'm going with the hot team. I'm going with Winnipeg. I'm sorry, Hamilton. See, memory gone. I'm going with Hamilton.
At least you didn't pick the Saints.
I know.
That's an
I'm
inside
going
joke,
Hamilton.
Robert, from our NFL show because we have this dude. Yeah, I could say it because he ain't listening, but he's a junior high teacher. Nothing against junior high teachers, but this guy is missing a few, if you know what I mean. And we're picking to one game, and I forget who it was. It was like Rams versus Panthers, and he talks about the game, and he goes, "And that's why I'm picking the Saints." So
Yeah.
Wow.
that's the one guy that Schmidt beats on NFL picks, by the way. That's
But,
all right.
Yeah, I'm going with Hamilton. I just think that is a hot team. They've been a complete team all year, and there's no reason to go against them now.
All right, Robert, do you agree or disagree?
I completely agree. I mean, you just look at Hamilton and what they've done, not just the first half of the year, the middle or the end. As I said, the game is played in waves. They've done it consistently the entire year. And you just look at their roster, top to bottom, it's just from Evans, it's just, I mean, and as I say, I have a great perspective of it from the simple fact that I've played in 5 Grey Cups, and I could go, and we would always go into the Grey Cup, and as players, we would talk amongst ourselves, and we would just look at our lineup, player for player, and we were way more dominant than them. Winnipeg has some great players, but as far as player for player, matchup to matchup, Hamilton's got them beat. Even on the special team aspect of the ball, Hamilton to win this game, you'd hope the Grey Cups are going to be always very good games, but Hamilton is just a lot more talented than Winnipeg, unfortunately.
Yeah, but you also have a Zach Collaros gets hot. You
yes,
never know.
You do. That's there. He's the X factor. He is the X factor. I do agree.
My problem here is I just don't see Winnipeg being successful running the ball. And I think we had a stat last week where they run the ball more than anybody in this league, and I don't think they're going to be able to run it. If they can't run it, the problem is then you got a defensive line in Hamilton that's extremely good. I think these are the 2 best defensive lines. They're the 2 best offensive lines, and that's why these are by far the 2 best teams. And I just think that you're going to have Hamilton being able to pin their ears back and just go after Zach Collaros. And if that happens, I think Hamilton wins this game by a couple touchdowns. So I'm going to go Hamilton too. We all 3 agree, which means people don't even have to watch the game now because it's done. It's written in stone.
There's a reason they play the games, because at any given time, anybody can be upset and win and beat them. But 94. We were supposed to be. I mean, like the week, a few weeks before. I mean, we beat BC like 52-6, 52-7. We destroyed them, and then we ended up playing them in the Grey Cup. But we didn't go in cocky or confident or anything. Cocky or arrogant or anything, because we as American players we knew nothing about the Grey Cup. But we went in thinking that we would win the game if all we had to show up, and they put up a fight against us like you would not believe. Actually, ended up beating us on a last-second field goal by Louis Pasaglia. So that was a slap in the mouth. To understand that you have to show up and play these games. You just can't show up and on paper and be like, all right, they're a more talented team. And then go out there and win the game. The next year, the same thing with Calgary. Calgary on paper, with Sapunjas, and Alan Fitz and Doug Flutie. It's like, holy smokes, and Kelvin Anderson, these guys are good, and like they're beating us the week before pretty, 2 weeks before pretty good. And we went out there and smacked them. So you can never, take account into things like that. You always got to show up and play the game. And at any given time, any team can win the game. So that's why I'm optimistic about who can or who cannot win. On paper, yes, Hamilton is a way more talented team. But do not be surprised if Andrew Harris sits there and goes off for a monster game. We all know he's capable.
Oh yeah.
With that, and with Zach Harris as quarterback, if Andrew Harris starts having a monster game, it's going to open up things for him, and we all know he's capable also. So they got guys on that team that are capable of putting points on the board. But anything can happen. It's going to be an exciting, fun game to watch also. It'll be pretty cool.
Now,
I always love chess matches like this.
The 94 game, you guys' kicker was Donald Igwe-Buikwe, wasn't he?
It was Iggy.
Okay, he kicked for the Bucks in the 80s, didn't he?
Yes, yeah. Iggy, you're a good guy.
He got to wear those awesome creamsicle gay pirate uniforms.
Yeah, did he do the next kicker the next year was after that?
In 95?
95.
For you guys?
Kick for Miami.
Hold on, I could think of this. Kick for the Dolphins?
Yes. No, Miami Hurricanes.
Oh, the Miami Hurricanes. That changed it. Because, you'd have had me thinking about Miami Dolphins there, and that wouldn't have been fair.
It
was the guy Huerta. Yeah.
Yeah, Carlos Huerta, yeah.
All right. I remember him. Did he ever kick in the NFL?
He did.
I thought he did, but I wasn't sure. I can't remember who it was. It was during the 90s. I didn't pay much attention to the NFL because my team was terrible. It's kind of like, now, because I think yesterday, Schmidt, is the first time, I don't think I watched any football on a Sunday, maybe in my entire life.
It's funny you say that because the only reason I watch football is because I happened to be somewhere it was on TV, but I wasn't even paying attention. So
yeah,
I'm with you.
Because I was working on a website, it's 1 o'clock, and I'm thinking, I don't want to watch anything. And then I had like 2 quarterbacks that called that wanted to do like 3:30 to 4:30 and 4:30 to 5:30. And in the past, I'd have been like, no, I can't do it today because I wanted to watch the Bengals. Actually, I just wanted to make some money because I don't want to watch the Bengals anymore. They're no fun.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
No, they're not good.
What the hell? All right, Brian, any final parting words?
I really urge people to put down the remote on the CFL game. Don't watch some of these NFL games. They're terrible.
The NFL ain't worth it anyways.
Watch this CFL game and watch this Grey Cup game. I think it's gonna be a good game. I agree. We all agree Hamilton we feel is gonna win this game, but I really think that this is gonna be an outstanding game.
Yeah, and there's no reason to watch the NFL because their owners are assholes. Robert, any final words?
It's like Brian said. This game's going to have its ebbs and have its flows. Yes, Hamilton's a dominant team on paper, but again, I'll go back to the games I played before. We were a dominant team on paper when I played. In 97. I'm from 97 against when I played with Flutie. When we lead pinball, we were a monster team back then. as far as talent wise, but again, Hamilton, Saskatchewan jumped up on top of us. They just came out. They had more energy. They had more flow. They had they had everything going for them. We were like, whoa, got us on our heels. So it made the game more exciting. It made the game, a lot more fun. And that's the one thing about these games. It's a party for the fans. It's a party for the media. It's a serious game for the players. So just go out there. You'll always remember it. I still look at my Grey Cup rings all the time. My sons are so proud of them. I still have pictures and everything from them. Some of the banners, I get social media emails from fans who are at the game and everything. It's one of the greatest memories you'll ever have. So, I just hope these guys are, they be safe. No one get injured. Everyone goes out there and have a great time and just watch the game and have a blast because Grey Cup's one of the most fun 5 times I've ever had before in my life.
The other 4 all included women, right? No, I'm just kidding. That'll be our midnight show. Grey Cup, the night before the Grey Cup. Now, here's my question. That Saskatchewan team, Reggie Slack was the quarterback for them, wasn't he?
Yes, Reggie Slack was the quarterback, correct.
Reggie Slack was the quarterback on the Auburn team in '89. You guys tied, wasn't he?
Oh, trust me, I know that already. I know my trivia also. Trust
No,
me.
I didn't know. I couldn't remember if he was the quarterback on the '89 team or not.
Oh, yeah.
You played
Reggie
in the
Slack was
games,
quarterback.
Robert. I'm not trying to, tell you something you didn't know.
Yeah. I can't remember every game verbatim, but I can remember every single player and every single venue and what we did and what happened, and like it was yesterday.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know how I can still do that.
Y'all ended up beating the hell out of Saskatchewan, from what I remember.
I mean, we ended up blowing them out, but we could have beat them worse. But we started off slow.
Was that the snow game, or was the snow game in '96?
No, the snow game was in '96.
Okay, I couldn't remember which one it was. So see, I'm
Yeah,
not
everyone
really
talks about
quizzing you. I'm just trying to remember the stuff myself. And I think that stupid kicker Peyton Manning didn't like was your kicker that year, wasn't
he? Yeah, Vanderjack.
Yeah. Was he really a drunk, Robert? Spill the beans.
No. Vandy was he was aloof. If anything, he was a great guy. Yeah. I mean, I used to hang out with Vandy all the time. He just would say some off the wall things at the most inappropriate time, and it's like, Vandy, what? And everyone talks about that fumble that Flutie got back. The referees blew the call. The funny thing is, the person with the best seat in the house was me. I was 5 yards standing behind Flutie, watching everything happen when the ball was snapped. I was sitting right there and saw what happened. It was a fumble, but the referees blew the whistle, didn't call it. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to sit there and say no, it was a fumble, but it truly was. But oh well, that's the way the game goes. They make some calls, they don't. As a player, I'm not going to sit there and help them.
All right, guys. Well, I guess we're going to wrap it up after this, and we will be back next week on Tuesday night for a Grey Cup wrap-up show where we'll wrap. How many years have we done this now, guys? Is this the fourth year or the fifth?
Yeah, it's the fourth year. I think it's the fourth.
I don't know. 2016, I think, is the first time we did it. Yeah, so that's 4 years. All right. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to remind you, if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, stop watching football, but you can listen to our show tonight at 10 o'clock. We're going to wrap it up, though. I want to thank Robert and Brian. I want to remind everybody, you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Podcast Addict. There's only over 300 outlets you can hear the Grueling Truth Sports Network on. Make sure you check it out. So, for Robert Drummond, Brian Schmidt, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.